ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयम् उदीरयेत्। नष्टप्रायेषु भद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवती उत्तम श्लोके भक्ति भवती नैष्टिकी। Hare Krishna. Today we continuing Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1st, Chapter 12, Birth of Emperor Parīkṣit Maharaj, Shloka number 6 and 7. Kim te kamaha surasparha
किं ते कामाः सुरस्पार्हाः
mukundam mukunda manasa dvijaha
मुकुन्दमनसः द्विजाः
adijavruhu mudaradnyoha
अधि अधिजुह्रुः मुदराज्ञः
क्षुदितस्य यथा इतरे
क्षुधितस्य यथा इतरे
मातु गर्भगतः विरह
मातुगर्भगतः वीरः
सह तदा भृगुनंदन
स तदा भृगुनन्दनः
ददर्श पुरुषं कश्चित्
तदर्श पुरुषं कञ्चित्
दह्यमानः अत्र तेजसा
दह्यमानः अत्र तेजसा
तेजसा अस्र 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 तेजसा
अस्त्र तेजसा
किं ते कामाः सुरस्पाराः
किं ते कामाः शूरस्पार्हाः
मुकुन्द मनस द्विजाः
मुकुन्द मनसः द्विजाः
अधिजो जर्हुः मुद मुदं राज्ञः
अधिजह्रुः मुदं राज्ञः
क्षुधितस्य यथा इदरे
क्षुधितस्य यथा इतरे
मातु गर्भगत विरह
मातुगर्भगतः विरह
सह तदा भृगुनंदन
सः तदा भृगुनन्दन
ददर्श पुरुषं कश्चित्
ददर्श पुरुषः कञ्चित्
दह्यमाण अश्र तेजसा
दह्यमानः अस्त्र तेजसा
किं ते कामाः सुरस्पाराः मुकुन्द मनस द्विजाः अधिजवृः मुदं मुराग्यः क्षुधितस्य यथा इतरे मातु गर्भगत वीरः सह तदा भृगुनन्दन ददर्श पुरुषं कश्चित् दह्यमान अश्र तेजसा. हरे कृष्ण. प्लीज रीड प्रभुजी.
किं ते कामाः सुरस्पार्हाः मुकुन्द मनसः द्विजाः अधिजोरुः मुदराज्ञः क्षुधितस्य यथा इतरे मातुगर्भगतः विरह स तदा भृगुनन्दनः ददर्श पुरुषं कञ्चित् दह्यमानः अस्त्र तेजसा.
पूनम माता जी. आशीष प्रभु जी.
किं ते कामा सुरस्पृहा मुकुंद मानसो द्विजाः अधि जारु मुदं राजज्ञ क्षुधितस्य यथा इतरे मातुर्गर्भगतो विरह स तदा भृगुनन्दन तदार्श पुरुषं कञ्चिद् दह्यमानो अस्त्र तेजसा. हरे कृष्ण.
कृपामयी माता जी.
कृष्ण माता जी दलत्नम किं ते कामा सुरस्पृहा मुकुन्द मनसो द्विजः आदि अधिः जाहु मूदं राजना सुदसी तस्य यते इतरे माधुर्गर्भगतो विरह sada tada Bhrigunandana tata Shat Purusham Kanchit Dayyamanostara Tejasa. Thank you much.
Translation and purport by the Srila Prabhupada, Jagadguru Srila Prabhupada ki jai. O Brahmanas, the opulence of the king was so enchanting that the denizens of the heaven aspired for it. But because he was absorbed in the service of the Lord, nothing could satisfy him except the Lord's service. O son of Bhrigu, Shaunaka, when the child Parīkṣit, the great fighter, was in the womb of his mother Uttarā and was suffering from the burning heat of the brahmāstra thrown by Aśvatthāmā, he could observe the Supreme Lord coming to him. Purport by the Srila Prabhupada, Jagadguru Srila Prabhupada ki jai. There are two things in the world which can satisfy living beings when materially engrossed. He is satisfied only by sense gratification. But when one is liberated from the conditions of the material modes, he is satisfied only by rendering service, loving service for the satisfaction of the Lord. This means that the living being is constitutionally a servitor and not one who is served, being illusioned by the conditions of the external energy. One falsely thinks himself to be the served, but actually he is not served. He is servant of the senses like lust, desire, anger, avarice, pride, madness, and intolerance. When one is in his proper senses, by attainment of spiritual knowledge, he realizes that he is not the master of the material world, but is only a servant of the senses. At that time, he begs for the service of the Lord and thus becomes happy without being illusioned by so-called material happiness. Maharaj Yudhishthir was one of the liberated souls, and therefore for him there was no pleasure in a vast kingdom, good wife, obedient brothers, happy subjects, and prosperous world. These blessings automatically follow for a pure devotee, even though the devotee does not aspire for them. The example set herein is exactly suitable. It is said that one who is hungry is never satisfied by anything other than food. The whole material world is full of hungry living beings. The hunger is not for good food, shelter, or sense gratification. The hunger is for the spiritual atmosphere. Due to ignorance, only they think that the world is dissatisfied because there is not sufficient food, shelter, defense, and objects of sense gratification. This is called illusion. When the living being is hungry for spiritual satisfaction, he is misrepresented by material hunger. But the foolish leaders cannot see that even the people who are most sumptuously materially satisfied are still. And what is their hunger and poverty? This hunger is actually for spiritual food, spiritual shelter, spiritual defense, and spiritual sense gratification. These can be obtained in the association of the Supreme Spirit, Lord Sri Krishna, and therefore one who has them cannot be attracted by the so-called food, shelter, defense, and sense gratification of the material world, even if they are relished by the denizens of the heavenly planets. Therefore, in the Bhagavad Gita 8.16, it is said by the Lord that even in the topmost planet of the universe, namely the Brahmaloka, where the duration of life is multiplied by millions of years by earth calculation, one cannot satisfy his hunger. Such hunger can be satisfied only when the living being is situated in immortality, which is attained in the spiritual sky, far, far above the Brahmaloka, in the association of Lord Mukunda, the Lord who awards his devotees the transcendental pleasure of liberation. Death generally involves remaining in trance for 7 months. A living being, according to his own action, is allowed to enter into the womb of a mother by the vehicle of a father's semen, and thus he develops his desired body. This is the law of birth in specific bodies. According to one's past action, when he is awake from trance, he feels the inconvenience of being confined within the womb, and thus he wants to come out of it, and sometimes fortunately pray to the Lord for such liberation. Maharaj Parīkṣit, while in the home of his mother, was struck by the brahmāstra released by Aśvatthāmā, and he was feeling the burning heat. But because he was a devotee of the Lord at once appeared himself within the home by his all-powerful energy, and the child could see that someone else had come to save him. Even in that helpless condition, the child Parīkṣit endured the unbearable temperature due to his being a great fighter by nature, and for this reason, the word viraha has been used. Viraha has been used. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Ain Tasmai Sri Gurave Namah Sri Chaitanya Manabhishtam Sthapitamena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Sri Guroho Sri Yuttapadakamalam Sri Gurun Vaishnavancha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Sri Vishakhanvitancha Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschata Desha Tarine Vancha Kalpatarubhecha Krupa Sindhubhe Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Nama Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sri Vasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna. From this shloka, we try to understand how the Brahmanas, the opulence of king, was enchanted. How the higher planetary systems, denizens also wanted. They also enchanting the opulence of the king Yudhishthir Maharaj, and how the Parīkṣit Maharaj was saved by the Lord Krishna. All these points are described in these two shlokas. Prabhuji will tell us.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. जारे राखे कृष्ण तारे मारे कोय, जारे मारे कृष्ण तारे राखे कोय. So this is one of the statements which is very profoundly known, that one whom Krishna saves, no one can destroy, no one can kill, and one whom Krishna punishes, no one can save, whatever be the efforts that he or she can do. This is something which gets ideally proven when we look at Parīkṣit Maharaj birth history. Now again, I am calling it as a history. We need to remember it is not a story, it is actually history. How Maharaj Parīkṣit took birth and how he was someone who was pure a devotee even before his birth. So Sud Goswami ji, when he is answering to the queries of Shaunak Muni, he has started with Yudhishthir Maharaj. How he was a very, very good king, how he had a lot of opulence. In fact, his opulence was very, very enchanting. So much enchanting that even the denizens of heaven aspired for it. But then, for him, it was nothing, because he used to be completely absorbed in the service of the Lord. So nothing could satisfy him except the Lord's service. And this is where the first learning for us comes for today. That we should be always engrossed. We should always be absorbed in the service of the Lord. If you are facing any problems, any troubles, any misfortunes which have happened to us, which is troubling us, some issues with our relatives, our friends, our colleagues, some big wins which you may have had, still nothing can disturb you if you are absorbed in the service of the Lord. And then it comes to Maharaj Parīkṣit, who as a child itself was a great fighter. And when he was in the womb of Uttarā, because of the brahmāstra which was thrown by Aśvatthāmā, there was so much of heat generated. And he was suffering from the burning of that heat. And even in that pitiable condition, he could observe the Supreme Lord coming to him. So basically, what Prabhupada is trying to say on these two shlokas is, first let's understand the importance of service to Lord, or being absorbed in service to devotee, to Guru, and to Krishna. So two things can satisfy living beings. Either we are materially engrossed, and in that case, we get satisfied by sense gratification. So maybe bigger job, better house, bigger bungalow, bigger car, beautiful spouse, more opulences, all such sense gratificatory actions. This can satisfy when one is materially engrossed. But then the other thing is, if one is liberated from the conditions of the material modes, then only rendering loving service for satisfaction of the Lord can give satisfaction. So see, as Jiva, we have both options. Either we can be satisfied by sense gratification, or we can be satisfied by rendering service for satisfaction of the Lord. So what is better? Now this is the question which gets answered. But to answer that question, important aspect comes in that we are always a servitor. Our constitutional position is that of a servitor. It is never that we can expect someone to serve us. We cannot be served. But because of the conditions of the external energy, we get illusioned and we falsely think that yes, I can be served. But actually, one is not served. He is still the servant of the senses. Lust, desire, anger, avarice, pride, madness, intolerance. And when one comes in proper senses, because of spiritual knowledge, one realizes that no, he is not the master of the material world, but is only a servant of the senses. And at that time, the living being begs for the service of the Lord and becomes happy without being illusioned by so-called material happiness. So here comes the choice, either be a Mayadas or be a Krishna Das. Because finally we have to be a Das. And that is what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also says in, and we are learning it in Chaitanya Charitamrita. Jivera Swarupa hai Nityera Krishna Das. That is the actual constitutional position, that I am the servant of Lord Krishna, of Gopinathji, who is there behind me right now. But it is up to us whether to accept it or not. If we don't accept the service of Krishna, then we have to accept the service of Maya, and we become engaged in that. In fact, there was some observation which I did right now and which made me realize this much better way today. So a person gets married with high expectations that the true love is found. But then the material world, the Maya, the illusion, it has got its own different plans. And it creates obstacles at every step in life. So we will be very happy. We may feel very much pleasure by interacting with our spouse, by talking to them, to him or her. So they enjoy each other's company. But then, slowly, steadily, some obstacles come in. And a time may come that once we are talking, all of a sudden, an episode is told, and the mobile on which we talk, maybe it is one of the Samsung mobiles, 1.5 lakh, and it simply falls down from the hand. That's the shock which Maya gives. So, whatever way you service Maya, Maya is not going to be happy. Being Mayadas is only a foolproof plan to always remain in the material world and be poked by the three modes of goodness, of ignorance, and of passion, and thus be always entangled. But then Maharaj Yudhishthir gives us the example. He is a liberated soul. And because of that, he had no pleasure whatsoever, though he had such a vast kingdom, such good wife, obedient brothers, happy subjects, prosperous world, opulences. In fact, all these things automatically follow for a pure devotee, even though he does not aspire for it. And the reason we all know, who is the owner of wealth? It is Lakshmi. And whom does Lakshmi serve? Krishna. So wherever there is Krishna, Lakshmi automatically follows like a chaste wife. And so we have to become a Krishna Das and not Maya Das. In fact, if someone is hungry, it's only the food which can satisfy him and nothing else. You give the best of the blazer to a person who is hungry. You give biggest of the cars to a person who is angry. You give him the Kohinoor diamond to a person who is angry. He will not be satisfied. But if you give him even small khichdi, he'll be very happy. This whole world is full of hungry persons, hungry living beings. But then this hunger is not for maybe good food, shelter, sense gratification. It is for spiritual atmosphere, because if this hunger was for that, then why a person who is having best of the foods is still hungry? It is due to ignorance that we think that the world is dissatisfied because there is insufficient food, shelter, defense, or maybe sense gratification. But this is illusion, because the real hunger is for spiritual satisfaction, which is misrepresented by material hunger. If hunger was not there, why would Ambani's, or for that sake, Bezos or Musk's be unhappy? Be always trying to do something or the other. So they are still hungry, even though materially satisfied, sumptuously satisfied. So what is this hunger? What is this poverty? This is actually for spiritual food, spiritual shelter, spiritual defense, spiritual sense gratification, to get out of this material world and repeated cycles of birth, old age, disease, and death. And this can be obtained only in the association of Krishna, the Supreme Spirit. And one who has them cannot be attracted by best of the food, shelter, or sense gratification opportunities of the material world. In fact, even in the higher planetary systems, be it the topmost planet, Brahmalok, where the duration of life is millions of times as compared to the earth, still the hunger is not satisfied. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Abrahma bhuvan lokaha punaravartinah Arjuna mamupetya tu kaunteya punarjanmana vidyate. From the highest planet in the material world down to the lowest, all are places of misery, wherein repeated birth and death take place. But one who attains to my abode, O son of Kunti, never takes birth again. So those who attain the highest material planets, they are again subjected to birth and death. So when we are on this planet Earth, because of our karma, we may get elevated to the higher planets. And people on the higher planets, such as say Brahma Lok, Chandra Lok, Indra Lok, once their karma phala, good karma phala is completed, they fall down back to the earth. This keeps on continuing. Baldev Vidyabhushan ji, he mentions in his commentary, Brahmana sahate sarve samprapte pratisanchare parashyante kiratmanah pravishanti parampadam. When there is devastation of this material world, Brahma and his devotees who are constantly engaged in Krishna consciousness are all transferred to the spiritual universe and to specific spiritual planets according to their senses. But then those who are not into Krishna consciousness, they have to continue the cycle. So hunger can be satisfied only when the living being is situated in immortality, which is attained in the spiritual sky, which is far, far, far above even the Brahma Loka, wherein we are in association of Krishna, the Mukunda, the Lord who awards his devotees the transcendental pleasure of liberation. So though we have a choice of being Krishna Das or Mayadas, it is very, very clear that we should use only Krishna Das as an option. A living being, according to his own action, depending upon his previous activities, karma phalas, he has to enter the womb of a mother by the vehicle of Sadha's semen. And then he develops a desired body. So this is the law of birth, according to one's past actions. Now, when this transfer is happening, the living being is always in a trance. The scriptures say that this lasts for around 7 months. But the moment he is awakened from the trance, he feels the inconvenience of being confined within the womb. And he wants to come out of it. And sometimes, fortunately, prays to the Lord for such liberation. So we have discussed this embryology even previously. In case of Maharaj Parīkṣit, while he was in this state, he was struck by brahmāstra. And not only was he having the inconvenience of being in the wound, he also was feeling the burning heat. But then he was a devotee of the Lord. And so Krishna at once appeared himself within the womb by his all-powerful energy. And Parīkṣit Maharaj could see that someone had come to save him. Even in that helpless condition, Parīkṣit Maharaj was able to endure the unbearable temperature because he was a great fighter by nature. And that is why the shloka uses the word Veera. Veera means the great fight. But then he could endure it because he was surrendered to Krishna and Krishna came to protect him. Jare rakhe Krishna, tare bare koi. Hare Krishna. Thank you.